The front door slammed so hard the frame shook. Finally, barked Marissa Langford, arms crossed over her silk blouse, high heels clicking across the marble floor. "You're 47 minutes late." A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped into the house, carrying a worn leather toolbox in one hand and a coiled spool of copper wire in the other. He wore a faded navy blue work shirt with Eli embroidered in cursive over the left chest pocket. His jeans were dusty, boots scuffed. Lines etched deep into his face spoke of age and something more weight. But he didn't flinch at her tone. "Ma'am, I'm sorry about the delay. There was an accident on." She cut him off. "Excuses. You people always have them. I pay for punctuality, not stories." Eli tightened his grip on the toolbox but said nothing. He'd heard worse, much worse, but not in the same tone. Not layered with that quiet venom of superiority, as if his presence was somehow tainting her sterile luxury. Marissa swept a manicured hand toward the chandelier overhead. "One of the kitchen lights keeps flickering. You'll fix it. Fast. And no tracking mud on the floors. I just had them polished." Eli nodded. "Yes, ma'am," as he stepped into the grand foyer. The chandelier above him sparkled like a frozen explosion glass. Gold and excess. Past it, the open-concept kitchen gleamed with white granite countertops and rows of untouched designer appliances. It didn't feel like a home, it felt like a showroom. He set his toolbox down near the base of the ladder and looked up at the recessed lighting. "Be careful," Marissa snapped from behind. "That's a baccarat, worth more than your truck." Eli didn't respond. He just climbed. From the second-floor balcony, a voice called, "Mom, who's the hobo in the kitchen?" Marissa didn't flinch. "That's the electrician, sweetie. Don't get too close. He smells like the street." Laughter echoed from above, young, male, entitled. Eli's jaw clenched, and for a moment, his hand froze midair as he reached for the light fixture, but he exhaled slowly and worked. The fixture was a mess. Amateur work, sloppy wiring, cheap connectors, a fire hazard waiting to happen. Eli muttered under his breath, "Jesus, this could have lit the place up." "Excuse me." Marissa's voice was sharp. Eli looked down calmly. "Just talking to myself, ma'am. Whoever installed this didn't follow code. It's unsafe." She rolled her eyes. "I hired a professional, not a preacher. Just fix it." Half an hour passed. Eli worked in silence. No music, no small talk. Just the soft clink of metal tools. The occasional grunt. Marissa made a show of pacing, watching him as if afraid he'd steal something. At one point, her son, probably 17, came down, earbuds dangling, phone in hand. He wore a tennis visor indoors and a bored expression. "You the handyman?" the boy asked, smirking. Eli looked at him. "Electrician." The boy made a clicking noise with his mouth. "Same thing. Thought you guys all just plugged wires together." Marissa chuckled from across the room. "Don't bother explaining, Eli. They don't really get things like education." Eli turned back to the wiring, but a flicker passed through his eyes, pain, buried deep and sudden. A name, a memory. He pushed it down. He finished replacing the faulty parts, tightened the plate, and flipped the breaker. The light glowed steady. "Done," he said, climbing down. Marissa glanced up. "Took long enough. You'll bill me, I assume?" "Yes, ma'am." The wiring was dangerous. "I had to replace." She waved a hand. "Save the explanation. Just send the invoice." The boy snorted. "Hope you don't charge per hour." "Dude, I could have done that with a YouTube tutorial." Eli nodded, silent again, packed his tools. As he reached the door, something behind him shattered glass. A scream. He spun. Marissa was standing in the kitchen, hands trembling. One of the recessed lights had burst. The boy screamed, "Mom, your hair, it's on fire." Panic. Eli dropped his tools and ran back. He tackled the boy aside gently and grabbed a dish towel, slapping it against the side of Marissa's head, smothering the flames. Her screams filled the house. In seconds, it was over. Her hair was scorched, shoulder trembling, but she was alive. Eli exhaled, crouched beside her. "What the hell was that?" Marissa gasped, tears streaming. "What did you do?" "I didn't touch that light," Eli said. "That wasn't one I fixed." You got deeper issues in your electrical system. You're lucky it wasn't worse. Are you saying this place is a bomb? The boy muttered, shaken. Eli stood up slowly. His eyes, dark and unreadable, shifted. I've seen bombs, he said. The room fell silent. Marissa blinked, her lip quivering. What? Eli stepped back, pulled off his work shirt slowly, revealing a black compression tee underneath. On his left arm, a deep scar ran from shoulder to elbow, and on his right, tattooed in faded ink, was a military insignia with a skull wrapped in wire and lightning bolts around it. Below, 3 block letters, EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. The boy's jaw dropped. Wait, that's like... You were military, Eli nodded. Marine Corps, EOD specialist, 13 years. Iraq, Afghanistan. I disarmed over 200 IEDs, saved lives, lost friends. Marissa's face paled. You're lying. That can't be. Eli reached into his wallet and handed her a worn photo of him in desert camo, standing beside a bomb suit, arm around a smiling young man. His smile in the photo was broader, unburdened. That was Corporal Jameson. He was 19. First patrol. Found a pressure plate under a pile of leaves. I got there too late. That's the last time I ever hesitated, the boy whispered. Holy crap. Eli put the photo away. I became an electrician when I came back because I still wanted to keep people safe. I see faulty wires like landmines. One wrong move and someone's gone. But I'm not here to brag. I'm here to work, not be mocked, not be disrespected. Marissa stared at him, tears still clinging to her lashes. I didn't know. I'm sorry. About everything, Eli nodded once. You don't need to apologize to me, ma'am. Just think twice next time you look down on someone in uniform, any uniform. He picked up his tools, slung the bag over his shoulder, and turned toward the door. But before he could reach it, the boy called out, Hey, Eli. Eli paused. Do you think you could teach me how to fix stuff? Not wires or anything, just like how to know things, how to not be a jerk. Eli looked over his shoulder, and for the first time that day he smiled. You got a screwdriver? The boy grinned. Yeah, somewhere. Marissa stepped forward, voice softer now. If you'd be willing to come back, maybe inspect the whole system, properly this time, I'll pay whatever's fair. Eli studied her, saw past the makeup, the expensive jewelry, to the human underneath. Humbled, changed. I'll come back. Not for the money, for the safety of your family. And then he walked out into the fading sun, toolbox in hand. But that night, in the Langford household, something had shifted. A light had gone off not above, but within, and it burned steady. The next morning, the Langford house was quiet. Marissa stood in the kitchen, clutching a lukewarm mug of coffee. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped nervously against the ceramic. Her son, Tyler, sat silently at the breakfast island, still wearing his hoodie from the night before. Neither of them had slept much. The scorched patch of her hair had been trimmed. A hairstylist rushed over that evening, but Marissa hadn't complained once about the look. Not after the fear. Not after the image of her head briefly aflame, the smell of burnt hair mixing with the sharp sting of humiliation. That electrician, no. That soldier had saved her life. And yet, the shame she felt wasn't from the fire. It was from her words. How can someone go through all that and still fix lights for a living, she murmured, almost to herself. Tyler glanced up. Maybe he sees it differently. You heard him. I see faulty wires like landmines. That guy, he's still on a battlefield. Just a different kind. Marissa swallowed hard. I was horrible to him. Yeah, Tyler said. Not cruelly, just honestly. She closed her eyes. I have to make this right. At exactly noon, the sound of an old pickup truck rolling down their pristine suburban street drew both of them to the window. Eli stepped out in his same worn boots and jeans, toolbox in hand, his calm face unreadable as ever. This time, when he rang the bell, Marissa opened it with no delay. Come in, please, she said, voice quieter than before. Thank you, ma'am, he replied. eyes scanning her carefully, not with judgment, just awareness. I want you to check the entire system, top to bottom. I don't care how long it takes or what it costs. Just, please, make it safe. Eli nodded. That's what I'm here for. Over the next 2 hours, Eli moved through the house like a ghost, silent, deliberate, focused. Tyler followed him around, asking the occasional question. Scribbling notes in a small notebook, Eli answered patiently, explaining terms like grounding, amperage, and resistance like a seasoned teacher. Tyler soaked it in like a sponge. So, this wire here, Eli said, pointing to a junction box in the basement. Whoever installed this looped it wrong. It's causing power to feed back through the neutral line. Tyler blinked. That's bad, right? Very. Could fry your appliances. Or your mother. Tyler's face paled. Dude, Eli smiled faintly. That's why we fix it. They moved room by room, and as they worked, the walls of pretense began to crumble. At one point, while Eli replaced a circuit in the attic, Marissa came up with a glass of iced tea. I thought you might need something cold, she said, offering it. Eli took it, nodded. Thanks. She hesitated, then sat on an old trunk nearby. My husband died 3 years ago, she said suddenly, surprising even herself. Car accident, drunk driver. Since then, I've tried to control everything. The house, the help, my son. I thought if I kept things perfect, I'd be safe. Eli didn't speak, just listened. I'm sorry for what I said yesterday. I treated you like dirt, and you didn't deserve that. He sipped the tea slowly. Thank you for saying that. It takes strength to admit when we're wrong. She looked at him. How did you do it? How did you go from disarming bombs to this and still hold your head high? Eli stared out the small attic window for a long moment. When I left the Marines, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat right. Felt like I left half of myself back in Kandahar. But one day, I was driving through a bad neighborhood and saw a fire truck outside a small house. Turns out, an old couple died in their sleep from an electrical fire, faulty wiring. And I thought, if I'd gotten there first, maybe they'd still be alive. Marissa's eyes shimmered. I went back to school, he continued, got certified, became an electrician, started small. Every time I fix something, it's like diffusing a little bomb before it goes off. She whispered. You're a hero. No, he said quietly. Heroes don't get to come home. I'm just doing what I can. Downstairs, Tyler was fiddling with a light switch. Eli called out, careful with that dimmer. It's connected to a faulty rheostat. Tyler yanked his hand back. Okay, got it, Eli chuckled softly. By late afternoon, the inspection was complete. Eli sat at the kitchen table, writing on a notepad. He handed it to Marissa. This is a full report. What's safe? What's not? What needs replacing immediately? And what can wait? She looked at the total at the bottom. It was a reasonable number, far lower than she expected. You could have charged double, she said. I charge what's fair, he replied, not what I can get away with. She folded the paper slowly. I'd like to refer you to my neighbors and to my company, Langford Realty. We have over 100 homes in the area. All need inspection. We pay top dollar. Eli blinked. Are you offering me a contract? I'm offering you a legacy, she said. If you want it. He stared at her, then nodded. All right. Tyler clapped his hands once. Yes. Now I can be your apprentice. Eli raised an eyebrow. You serious? Tyler grinned. I want to learn. Not just wires. I mean, everything. Marissa looked at her son, pride in her eyes. For the first time in months, maybe years, she saw him excited about something real. You've got time after school, she said. If Eli's willing. Eli extended a hand. One condition. Tyler shook it. Name it. You show up on time. Tyler laughed. Deal. As Eli packed his things and stepped toward the door, Marissa stopped him one last time. Thank you. Not just for the lights. For reminding us who you are. He turned. We all have stories. Sometimes people forget that. Then he walked out, disappearing into the golden afternoon, the sun casting long shadows on the driveway behind him. But in the Langford household, a new light had been lit, one not wired through walls, but rooted in respect, in redemption, and in the quiet, unshakable presence of a man who once faced bombs. and chose to fix homes instead. And for the first time in a long time, every room in that house felt warm, alive, safe. That evening, the Langfords didn't retreat to separate rooms with silent dinners and screens. For once, the house felt connected not through Wi-Fi, but through something stronger. Marissa stood at the kitchen sink, quietly humming a tune she hadn't thought about in years, while Tyler sat at the island scrolling through Electrician toolkits online. You know, he said, glancing at his mother. I think I want to do something different, maybe study electrical engineering, not business like Dad. She looked up, eyes wide. Electrical engineering. Yeah, he said with a small grin. After today, it doesn't seem so boring, it feels important. Marissa turned off the faucet. If that's what you want, Tyler, I'll support you. Just promise me one thing. He leaned forward. What? Never look down on someone doing honest work, especially the kind that keeps people safe. Tyler nodded. The memory of Eli's scarred arms and steady hands still fresh in his mind. The next week, Eli returned not just as an electrician, but as a consultant. Marissa had arranged everything. Langford Realty's entire roster of luxury homes would undergo electrical inspections, beginning with the oldest properties. Word spread fast. Contractors and designers, used to throwing their weight around, now made space when Eli walked onto a site. There was something about him, an invisible command, not spoken but felt. A quiet dignity that silenced egos and demanded respect without asking for it. One afternoon, a young contractor named Mateo crossed paths with him at a renovation site. You're the one from the Langford job, right? Mateo asked. The vet. Eli nodded, adjusting his voltage tester. I heard what happened. The fire. The way you saved her. It was instinct, Eli said simply. Mateo looked away. I did 2 tours. Army. Saw a lot. Couldn't find my place when I got back. Eli met his eyes. What are you doing now? Floating. Side jobs. Nothing steady. Eli considered this, then handed him a card. You ever think about getting certified? I'm expanding. Could use a man who knows how to think under pressure. Mateo blinked, stunned. You serious? I don't offer fake things, Eli replied. Call me. And that was how Eli's crew began to grow, not with resumes, but with trust, with second chances, with men and women who carried ghosts in their pockets, but still showed up, tool belt on, ready to work. Veterans, recovering addicts, single parents, people no one had given a shot. He gave them purpose. In return, they gave everything. Months passed. Langford and Sons Realty began advertising. Certified electrical safety by E. Rains, USMC. Sales went up. Insurance rates went down. But what Marissa valued most wasn't the numbers. It was the shift. Her world was full of glitter and glass before beautiful. Yes, but fragile. Now, it felt grounded, strong, honest. One chilly morning, as Eli arrived to check on a new smart home installation in one of the luxury condos, he found Tyler already there, toolbox in hand, sleeves rolled up. You're early, Eli said. Surprised, Tyler grinned. Trying to make a good impression on my mentor. They worked side by side, Eli explained. Tyler listened. At one point, Tyler paused, pointing to a complicated set of wire junctions. Let me guess. Someone mixed load and neutral again. Eli raised an eyebrow, impressed. Correct. You're getting sharp. Tyler smirked. I had a good teacher. Later that day, while they were cleaning up, Tyler asked a question he'd been holding back for weeks. Do you ever miss it? Eli paused, wrapping his cord slowly. You mean the war? Yeah. Or being that guy with the suit, the one walking into danger every day. Eli stared out the window, eyes far away. I don't miss the bombs, or the screaming, or the funerals, but I miss the clarity. Out there, you knew what mattered. Lives. Seconds. Here, people argue over tile patterns and wine chillers. Sometimes it's hard. Tyler nodded. So why keep doing it? Eli looked at him. Because people like you live here now, and you matter. Because if I don't, someone else might get hurt. Because every wire I fix is one less family at risk. Tyler swallowed hard. That's heavy. It should be. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Tyler said quietly, I'm glad you walked through our door that day. Eli placed a hand on his shoulder. So am I. The next few years unfolded like a slow bloom. Marissa became an advocate for veteran hiring initiatives, speaking at local events and hosting fundraisers not to polish her image, but to make amends. She sat on panels, introduced Eli to lawmakers, and helped pass a citywide initiative requiring stricter safety checks on older electrical systems, a policy inspired by his first visit to her home. Tyler graduated high school early and enrolled in a joint vocational college program. He interned full-time under Eli, who by now had 5 employees and a small office downtown with a simple sign, Rains Electric, wiring that saves lives. One day, an old woman named Clara called about a flickering light in her kitchen. Her house was in a bad part of town, the kind of place others might skip. But Eli showed up. Clara was in a wheelchair, frail and warm-eyed. As Eli inspected her wiring, she offered him a cup of tea and said softly, You remind me of my son. He was a Marine too. Eli froze for a moment. Then he smiled gently. What was his name? Jerome. He died in Fallujah. I knew a Jerome, Eli whispered. He saved my life once. They sat in silence for a long while. No work, no wires, just memory and grief and understanding. Later, after the job was done, he left without charging a cent. As he walked to his truck, Tyler asked, Why didn't you take her money? Eli looked up at the sky. Some debts can't be repaid with invoices. Tyler didn't ask again. Years rolled on. The business grew, but Eli never lost touch. He still made house calls, still taught, still checked every line himself before a client moved in. He became a quiet legend in the city. No billboards, no ads, just word of mouth and a reputation built one screw, one wire, one life at a time. Eventually, a journalist came knocking. A piece in the local paper, from bombs to breakers, the veteran who chose to save homes instead of destroy them. The story went viral. Offers poured in, TV interviews, documentaries. A book deal. Eli declined most of them. I'm not a celebrity, he said simply. I'm a guardian. But he allowed one interview on Veterans Day where he stood in front of the Langford house and told his story, not of war, but of redemption, of how he was once disrespected and how that moment led to change, not just in others, but in himself. When asked what he was most proud of, he didn't mention medals or missions. He said, I'm proud that the kid who mocked me now runs a business with me. That his mother, who once couldn't look me in the eye, is now the godmother to my daughter. And that every time I flip a switch, I know someone's safe. Because sometimes the biggest explosions in life aren't made of bombs and fire, but of truth. Breaking down walls we never knew we built. And sometimes, just sometimes, a man walks into your house to fix a light and ends up rewiring your heart. Years passed like quiet thunder. Rains Electric grew into something no one expected, least of all Eli himself. What began as a simple one-man operation born from trauma and survival had evolved into a full-fledged institution, veteran-run, honor-bound, and community-powered. With each new employee, Eli insisted on 3 things: respect, precision, and purpose. He didn't care about degrees or suits or how polished someone sounded in an interview. He looked for steadiness in the eyes, a quiet kind of strength, the kind that understood darkness but chose to build light. By now, Tyler Langford had become his right-hand man. In his mid-20s, sharp, driven, and humble, he no longer resembled the smug teen who once mocked a man for dirty boots. He was a licensed electrical engineer, co-founder of the Rains Apprentice program, and well on his way to becoming a leader in his own right. One crisp October morning, the team gathered at the new training center, a renovated fire station turned workshop where they hosted monthly orientation for incoming apprentices. Most of them were fresh out of service or prison or foster care. Lost boys and girls, looking for something to hold on to. Eli stood before them in his usual worn jeans and faded black shirt. Behind him was the Rain's electric emblem, a hand reaching through tangled wires, pulling light from chaos. "I know what it feels like," he said, voice steady. "To come home and not know where you fit. To feel invisible in a world you once bled for." The room went silent. "I was one bad night away from becoming a headline," he continued. "But someone once looked me in the eye and said, 'You're not done yet.' That someone was me." He scanned the crowd. "And now, it's you." Later, as the recruits toured the facility, Tyler caught up with him outside. "You still give that same speech every month," Tyler said, grinning. Eli shrugged. "Still true, isn't it?" Tyler hesitated. "I've been thinking." Eli raised an eyebrow. Oh, Tyler laughed. "We've got the business stable. The program's growing. What if we started a non-profit? Something bigger? Nationwide safety inspections for low-income housing. Call it Operation Groundwire." Eli was quiet for a long moment. "That's good," he finally said. "Really good. You'd be the face of it." "I've got a face for radio." "Eli," he smirked. "All right, let's do it." Operation Groundwire launched with local fundraising, a viral video, and a heartfelt letter from Marissa Langford herself, detailing the day her life was saved by a man she once dismissed. Donations flooded in, volunteers signed up, and within 6 months, the program had rewired over 300 low-income homes, preventing untold numbers of electrical fires. And then, one day, the phone rang. It was the Pentagon. They wanted to honor Eli at a national ceremony recognizing veterans who had continued serving their country through public work. Eli initially said no. "I'm not looking for medals," he muttered, but Tyler pressed him. So did Marissa. So did Clara, the wheelchair-bound woman who now referred to Eli as her adopted son. So he said yes. At the ceremony, he stood awkwardly in a tailored black suit. The room was filled with generals, senators, CEOs. But when Eli took the stage, he didn't talk about heroism or sacrifice. He talked about a chandelier. "The first time I met Marissa Langford," he said, "she told me not to dirty her floor. I wanted to walk out, but I stayed. And that decision changed everything. I didn't just fix her light. I rewired a family. I rewired myself." The crowd was silent. "Every broken wire," he said, "every melted panel, every overloaded circuit. It reminds me that we live on borrowed time. And it's what we do with that time that counts. Me. I chose to protect homes the way I once protected convoys." Applause thundered. Reporters wept. But Eli didn't wait for the after-party. He returned to his truck, loosened his tie, and drove back to the training center, where a new class was learning how to solder their first wires. He belonged there, in the sparks, in the silence. One night, years later, Marissa invited him over for dinner. Her hair had gone gray, her voice gentler. Tyler was there too, now married, expecting his first child. "I want you to be the godfather," Tyler said, sliding a tiny box across the table. Inside was a small charm, shaped like a lightning bolt. Eli looked at it, then at them. "You sure?" he asked, voice rougher than usual. Tyler nodded. "You rewired our lives, Eli. It's only fair you help start the next one." And so, when that child was born, Olivia Grace Langford, Eli was the first one to hold her. His calloused hands cradled her like she was made of gold. "Hi there, little spark," he whispered. He stayed until she opened her eyes, bright, steady, unafraid, because Eli Rains knew the truth. Some men defuse bombs, some men fix wires, and some men, quietly, patiently, repair the world. Eli Rains never liked the spotlight, even after the ceremony, the articles, and the dozens of speaking invites that flooded his inbox. He still woke up every morning at 5:30, tied his boots with the same quiet ritual, and loaded up his old pickup like he always had. He was never in it for the applause. For him, real work didn't end with a handshake. It ended when someone slept safe beneath their own roof without ever knowing how close they might have come to danger. That spring, Operation Groundwire expanded into 3 new cities. Veterans across the country wrote in daily, asking to join engineers, mechanics, linemen, combat medics. It was more than a program now. It was a movement. And Eli, he remained its heartbeat. But even hearts wear out. It was a Tuesday when he collapsed. Not during some dramatic job or national event, but in the middle of rewiring a socket at a community center built for at-risk youth. Tyler found him kneeling, pale, one hand gripping his chest. Eli gasped, eyes fluttering. I'm fine, kid. Just give me a minute. No, you're not, Tyler snapped, kneeling beside him. I'm calling an ambulance. Eli tried to protest, but Tyler's voice broke. He wasn't asking for permission. At the hospital, tests revealed a blocked artery. Doctors said it was a miracle. He hadn't had a major heart attack months earlier. Years of pushing through pain, years of carrying weight no one saw. Marissa came that night with a small bag of his things, his old wallet, his dog tags, and a photo she'd framed. It was from their very first meeting, him unsmiling in front of her chandelier. She'd caught it from her door camera years ago and kept it, a reminder of the day everything changed. He blinked at it, tired but amused. You framed that, she smiled. I wanted to remember the moment a man I misjudged saved my life. Again and again. Eli was kept for 2 weeks. The team ran without him, but not aimlessly. Tyler stepped up as acting director. Clara handled community outreach. Mateo took on new recruit training, and every one of them kept a space open in the shop where Eli's worn stool sat, untouched. When Eli finally returned, he didn't say much, just walked in, nodded once, and got to work. But something in him had shifted. He was moving slower now, more deliberate. He knew time wasn't infinite. So he began mentoring with even more intensity, pouring every bit of knowledge into the next generation. One night, after a particularly long day, Tyler invited him over for dinner. Olivia, now 5, ran to him at the door and leapt into his arms. Uncle Eli, Uncle Eli. He caught her, chuckling. Hey, little spark. She held out a drawing, 3 stick figures, standing under a glowing house. One of them wore a tool belt. That's you, she said proudly. He stared at it for a long moment. You drew the wires too, he said, amazed. They keep the house warm, she nodded. Daddy said you taught him. Later that night, Tyler and Eli sat on the back porch. The stars overhead were clear, and the hum of distant cicadas filled the air. You ever think about retiring? Tyler asked gently. Eli took a sip from his tea. Every day, Tyler laughed. But you won't, will you? Eli smiled faintly. Not while there's still something broken out there. But time, relentless and patient, doesn't wait for warriors. One winter morning, Eli didn't show up for roll call. Mateo drove to his house and found the porch light still on, toolbox by the door, and Eli sitting quietly on the porch swing he'd passed in his sleep. Peacefully, he was holding Olivia's drawing. The funeral was held at the same community center where he'd collapsed years before. Hundreds came, veterans, neighbors, clients, journalists, even a few who had once mocked him. Each had a story, a socket, a light, a life. Marissa delivered the eulogy. Her voice didn't tremble once. Eli Raines walked into my life as a stranger with a toolbox. I treated him like he was less than me, but he never looked down. He only looked ahead at what needed to be done. He didn't wear a cape. He didn't give speeches. But he changed my son. He saved my life. And he reminded us that heroes don't always kick down doors. Sometimes they just fix the wires before the fire ever starts. Tyler stepped up next. He wore Eli's old black work shirt, cleaned and pressed, but still rough around the edges. He said nothing for a long moment. Then, simply, I miss him. Every day. But if you want to honor Eli, don't just remember his name. Finish what he started. They buried Eli under an oak tree behind the training center. A plaque marked the spot. Eli Raines. He disarmed bombs. Then he rewired the world. Every year, on the anniversary of his passing, the apprentices gather beneath that tree. They share stories, light lanterns, and renew their vow to never forget where they came from, to never disrespect honest hands, and to always, always keep the lights on. Because even though Eli Raines is gone, his circuits still hum, his code still holds. And in every quiet home, every fixed panel, every life made a little safer, he lives on.